selling out the Forum. First Madison Square Garden, now the Forum. And he's doing it because the fans just want to see him in the ring, regardless of who he fights against.
Tom, obviously.
Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? I'm telling you right now, I am really liking this card on September 10th with Gennady Golovkin facing off against the welterweight champion of the world, Kell Brook, the undefeated welterweight champion of the world. And on the undercard, you have Roman Gonzalez moving up in weight to face the undefeated WBC champion, Carlos Cudras. Hopefully I said that name right. You guys help me out if I didn't say it right. But anyway, considering the fact that this fight is not on pay-per-view like Canelo versus Liam Smith, and it's on HBO, I'm really looking forward to watching this card. I mean, the Roman Gonzalez versus Carlos Cudras, that fight alone is worth the price of admission. And when it comes to the main event, regardless of how much of a mismatch you guys think it is, at the end of the day, and I tell you right now, I said it a long time ago, I wanted to see, that was one of the opponents that I wanted to see Golovkin face, me personally. Why? Because I knew that Kell Brook, at least skill-wise, I knew that Kell Brook was better than any of Golovkin's previous opponents, skill-wise and resume-wise. The only problem is he's not a middleweight. He's not even a junior middleweight. But he still is a step up in competition for Gennady Golovkin. I use an analogy before I talk about the Roman Gonzalez fight. I use this analogy when it comes to this Kell Brook versus Golovkin fight. I said, if I go to my refrigerator and I'm used to having Sunny Delight, soda, water, milk, etc., and this one day I'm thirsty as hell, I go to my refrigerator and there's nothing in my refrigerator but milk and water, right? And because I'm so thirsty, I picked the milk to drink. And that milk tastes so damn good because I was so thirsty. The milk is icy cold, etc. Now, just because I enjoy that milk more than water, it doesn't make that milk soda, Sunny Delight, apple juice, etc. You see where I'm going with this? The point that I am making is, once again, Kell Brook is a better opponent, name-wise and event-wise. He's a better opponent than Dominic Wade, a Marco Antonio Rubio, a Gabe Rosado. I would rather see Golovkin against Brook than those type of opponents. But if you gave me an option of Golovkin versus Ward, Golovkin versus Gilberto Ramirez, Golovkin versus DeGale, Golovkin versus Danny Jacobs, I would pick those fights over Golovkin Brook if I had the option. Okay? With that being said, no matter how this fight turns out, if Golovkin runs over Kell Brook, if Kell Brook surprises everyone and turns this into a fight, this is a good card to watch on HBO. With that all being said, let's talk about the co-main event. Once again, Roman Gonzalez against Carlos Cudras. I wanted to do my homework and study some of Carlos's fights because I had never watched any of his fights before. So this past week, I've watched four or five of Carlos's fights. And I'll tell you right now, I'm definitely impressed. I'm impressed with his style. I'm impressed with his confidence, his combinations, his speed. He seems to be a pretty good champion, especially when it comes to going up against a Roman Gonzalez. You know, this is one of the rare occasions for Roman Gonzalez where he's going in the ring with a guy that has the same type of confidence that he has. This guy has the confidence of not only being an undefeated fighter, but an undefeated champion, and a good one at that. As you see in this picture right here, you see he's a Floyd Mayweather fan. He's rocking the TMT hat, and I know that really pisses off the racist fans, because the racist fans who send me messages, they tell me only N-words like Floyd and all these other racial slurs that they use, which I love when racist, ignorant people, decavs basically, dumb casual ass fans, I love when they tell the truth. I love when they tell the truth, so we really know what time it is. And by the way, just since I'm talking about this, I just want to make it clear for all the racist fans, because there's two different type of racist fans. There's the ones that just come straight out and they tell you what they think about you. I respect them more than the racist fans that want to use code words and try to beat around the bush, and you know, they're so afraid they're going to get discovered they're a racist, so they try to use all these code words, only saying these code words about one race of people, which makes it obvious they're playing the race card. You hear all these code words like he's boring, he's inactive. Even when the fighter is not inactive, they still call him inactive. He's boring, he's a runner, etc., etc. These are all code words when they're only saying this about one demographic, right? And you know, it's funny because speaking of quote unquote running, Carlos Cudras, his style is a style of a lot of foot movement. When I say a lot of foot movement, a lot of foot movement. Put it this way. If Carlos was on the coincidental list, he would be called the biggest runner, coward, etc., etc., by the decavs. This is not what I'm saying, because I just told you guys I was impressed when I watched Carlos perform. He does use a lot of foot movement, but I've always told you guys I don't like to use terms like runner, etc., etc., because that means nothing. When you're in the ring, what do you mean a runner? Where is a person going to run? He has nowhere to run. What is he going to do? Jump out the ring and run back to the dressing room? I mean, where are you going to run? From the blue corner to the neutral corner to the red corner? Where are you going to run? I mean, picture yourself being locked up in a four-cornered room where there's no openings at all, and you're in there with a rat, and that rat is running every which way, but he can't get out of the room, but all he can do is run from corner to corner. Are you telling me you wouldn't be able to catch that rat? Of course you would be able to, unless you are completely weak, right? So with that being said, this is the reason why I don't like terms like runner, etc., etc. That is no excuse for you to lose to someone. You know, not only that I box as an amateur, but you guys all know that my son's box right now. That's right, and I'll keep saying it. My son is a 4-time state champion, 2-time national champion, and he has never had a problem with cutting off the ring and stopping opponents from moving. You know, my son has never lost to a fighter that just constantly moves in the ring. And when you're fighting in the amateurs, you get a lot of different styles. But for this example, let's use a name that we all know when it comes to the sport of boxing, and that is Mike Tyson. This is why whenever I hear fans or anyone, trainers or whoever, make excuses of, oh, the other guy just ran, the other guy just ran, I always think of Mike Tyson versus a lot of opponents, but the fight that always comes to mind is Mike Tyson versus Michael Spinks. Because when Michael Spinks got in the ring, that's what he did. He quote unquote ran in the ring. He constantly moved. And you guys know what Mike Tyson did to Michael Spinks, guys? Mike Tyson, he knocked out Michael Spinks in the very first round. Why? Because if you are a complete fighter, if your trainer is a complete trainer, then you guys know exactly what needs to be done when you have a fighter or an opponent that is resisting and refuses to cooperate with you. As if fighters are supposed to cooperate with you, right? And this is once again why it sounds so silly when people say, oh, he was running. Oh, I couldn't beat him because he was blocking. Oh, I couldn't beat him because every time I threw a punch, he would move his head. You know, if he was tough, he would just stand there, put his hands down and let me hit him. This is how ridiculous the decaf sound. Okay, so with all of that being said, like I just told you guys, Carlos Cudras is a mover in the ring. His defense has a lot to do with foot movement. There is a lot of different ways to implement defense in the ring. A classical fighter like James Toney, his defense would be to stand right in front of you and use the shoulder roll, use waist movement, use head movement. That's his form of defense. You look at Muhammad Ali, the great Muhammad Ali, his defense was mainly through his foot movement. Muhammad Ali was not a great stand right in front of your face defensive fighter. Before Muhammad Ali took his 3-year layoff, his foot movement was his main form of defense, okay? So with that being said, I was watching, like I said, Carlos fights, and one fight in particular, I forget the opponent, but Carlos in the first maybe 7 rounds, he used a lot of foot movement, and he didn't really throw a whole lot of punches. It was foot movement, and I was thinking he was going to do this for 12 rounds, and I was wondering, is he going to slow down? Is he going to get tired? Is he going to let his hands go later on? And just as I said that, around the 8th, 9th round, all of a sudden, Carlos started getting a lot more aggressive. And he started landing beautiful 3, 4, 5 punch combinations. And he started to really take charge of the fight. It looked to me like he was definitely using all of this foot movement to really frustrate and tire out his opponent. This foot movement, it works very well against aggressive fighters for the most part, because the majority of aggressive fighters, they have to be set to punch. So if you're constantly moving, it makes it very difficult for an aggressive fighter to get leverage in his punches if he's not in a comfortable planted position. So this is why I believe this fight will be very competitive. Roman Gonzalez is that aggressive type of fighter, but the difference with Roman Gonzalez is he's closer to, I'm not comparing him to Mike Tyson, but just for the example that I'm using right now, he's closer to a Mike Tyson when it comes to cutting off the ring. Because I've seen Roman Gonzalez in the ring with fighters that move very well, and I've seen Roman Gonzalez cut off the ring very well and get in their chest and open up on them with a barrage of punches. This will be a little bit different. I wonder when Roman, you got to remember, he's moving up in weight, but it's only 3 pounds. So that makes me wonder, when he moves up to 115, is he still rehydrating to the same weight that the 150 pounders are rehydrating to? Which, if that is the case, that means this won't be that much of a step up in weight or a jump up in weight for Roman Gonzalez. But I don't know yet. I don't know. For all I know, I mean, we're only talking about 3 pounds, but for all I know, it can be possible that, what's his name, Carlos Cudras, maybe he does rehydrate more than Roman Gonzalez does. I don't know. That'd be a good question to ask them, though, what their walk-around weight is. But like I said before, I said it in previous videos, way before Roman Gonzalez had this tough opponent that he's going up against, I've said we need to see Roman Gonzalez in that type of fight where the other opponent, he has the same type of confidence of an undefeated fighter, of a champion that Roman Gonzalez has. And this is why I commend Roman Gonzalez. It's funny when you look at the contrast, it really is. The fact that you have two fights, on this card. You have Roman Gonzalez, who's actually moving up in weight to fight a bigger guy. And when it comes to Golovkin versus Brook, you have Golovkin fighting an opponent who's actually coming up 2 weight classes. So when you look at the contrast, it's pretty interesting. It's definitely pretty interesting. Not only that, but it also makes me wonder whose performance will be more dominant. Because that's going to be a shame if Roman Gonzalez were to have a more dominant performance moving up in weight than a Gennady Golovkin, who is expected to completely run over the smaller Brook, right? It'll be interesting to see. And that's another reason why, I'm looking forward to watching this card. But yeah, man, after watching some of Carlos's fights, this is a real fight. And I really commend Roman Gonzalez one more time for stepping up in weight. When you look at all of the fights that have been taking place recently, you look at the fact that Canelo Alvarez, he's been in neutral for so long. He refuses to go up. I keep telling people that Canelo Alvarez, he is running on a boxing treadmill right now. He's running real fast, but he ain't going nowhere. But you have someone like Roman Gonzalez who he's running. He ain't on a treadmill. He's stepping up in competition. So he's moving forward. And that's why you have to give Roman Gonzalez a lot of credit. And he said it himself. He said, I didn't have to take this fight, guys, but here I am moving up in weight to face a tougher guy, because he wants to fight the best. So, this will be an interesting fight. I hope that Roman Gonzalez, because I know that Roman Gonzalez is a big 115 pounder, even though he's just moving up to 115. Last time I checked, I believe he rehydrates to like 120 something. So clearly, Roman Gonzalez, if he really wanted to, he could campaign at 115 for a couple fights. He could easily make 118. There's no doubt about it to me. You make that jump from 112 to 115, you should be able to make that jump from 112 to 118. That's only 6 pounds. We know that jumping up from 140 to 147 is 7 pounds. From 160 to 168, that's 8 pounds. And etc., right? So with that all being said, once again, this is a very competitive fight. It's a 50-50 fight. I don't feel really comfortable picking a winner. I do believe that in the first half of this fight, Carlos's foot movement may confuse and frustrate Roman a bit. But like I said, I believe Roman Gonzalez is good at cutting off the ring. Roman Gonzalez is not one of them slow, plodding, aggressive fighters. He can cut off the ring pretty well, but it's going to take some time for him to catch up with Carlos. I truly believe that. Another fight I was watching the other day was Roman Gonzalez versus Francisco Estrada. That was another fight that would be similar to this kind of fight. I personally believe that Francisco Estrada has a little bit of a better defense than Carlos Cudras. At least the one thing I liked about Estrada is he keeps his hands up. He's not a guy with fancy head movement, but he keeps his hands up a lot, so he's moving around with his hands up. I know Carlos, he likes to move around with his hands down a lot. So, that he leaves himself a little bit more open, because even though he's a Floyd Mayweather fan, he doesn't have that type of foot movement or even that type of defense where he can just stand right in front of his opponent and not get touched, right? I believe this is a fight where both fighters will be strong from the opening bell to the championship rounds. But you know, if I had to slightly lean towards someone, and once again, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes the other way, I would still have to lean towards Roman Gonzalez, because there was a lot of times when I was watching the clips of Carlos box, when fighters caught up with him, they would exchange, and there were a lot of times when Carlos would just throw flurries of punches but get caught with like vicious hooks in between throwing those beautiful flurries he was throwing. So that makes me feel like someone like Roman Gonzalez, he'll be able to land some of those hooks on the inside. I believe even when Carlos Cudras, he also throws a lot of jabs. He has a good jab too, but I question if Carlos can avoid getting caught with some vicious counter right hands over his jab by Roman Gonzalez. So with that all being said, yeah, man, I see this as a very tough fight for Roman, but if I had to lean to someone or towards someone, I would slightly lean towards Roman Gonzalez. So that's pretty much all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.
This is Bobby, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.